Hi, I'm Nikki Salfer. I'm the CEO of Learning Tree, and I am so excited today to be here with my friend Jacob. We have spent the last 8 years on this amazing journey, and I want him to be able to share his story and our work together. And I hope through this process, this will give you as much hope and as much great feelings as it gave me to have lived through this, to have helped teach Jacob, and to really have learned all about Jacob's life. Hi, Jacob.
Hi, Nikki.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
What we're trying to do in our goal for today is to really give hope to parents and other people out there that may listen to our story and resonate and think, well, this is something that means something. Let's talk a little bit about how we met. I know that you struggled in school. What did you know growing up in school that was an issue for you?
I knew that I couldn't read. I couldn't write. So primarily my mom, did the writing, and I would copy it, word for word, in which they were all just letters. I mean, they didn't make any sense. It was just writing, and I didn't copy it probably too well either. And so that's what I knew, at elementary school, that my mom just sat down and did my homework basically.
So you went through school and you struggled with reading and writing, and then your mom sent you to a ton of different programs, which is really, really amazing, all the different things that she sent you to. And then you went to Hiram College. And talk a little bit about what your professor said to you, your counselor, when he first met you.
Yeah, the professor told me, I was sitting down, I think it was my faculty advisor, and he sat down and he just, looked at my stuff, and he said, "You're like a blind man going through college."
Right.
And
how did you feel when he said that?
Well, I was numb. I really didn't know what he meant.
Right.
I mean, it took me till I got literate to understand what he meant.
Right.
Which was 20 years, 30 years later.
Okay, so you're going through school and you're going through these programs and you're going through college, and you're frustrated. Mm-hmm. You can't seem to get literate like your friends. What did you do to deal with your frustration?
Well, I turned to drugs and alcohol, and music,
Right.
and just the party life.
Right. Okay, so then all of a sudden at 30 years old, you realize that may not have been the way to go, and you do a lot of work, and you go through the 12-step program.
Yes.
And you've been clean for a long time. So you're working, you have a job, you're successful in the company that you're working for,
yes.
And you go to a counselor because you don't want to work anymore. You're not feeling like there's meaning to life. Talk a little bit about what you told that counselor.
Well, I felt like I was in a box and that I couldn't escape. Everybody's looking at me, and I couldn't match up to anybody that I worked with. And I probably, to some degree, maybe I'm a little hard on myself. I probably didn't belong there. I couldn't do the work, on some level. On some level, I had a lot of skills. But on some level, I really couldn't do, I couldn't do all the paperwork.
So what's amazing is I get this call. I'm in my office in school with lots of little kids running around, real noisy. And I get this call from a therapist, and he says, "Nikki, I got a really interesting case for you." And I'm like, okay, great. I'm so excited. What's interesting? And he says, I have a guy that came to me for anxiety and depression, and before I recommend him to a psychiatrist, I think his real issue is that he's illiterate. And I said, really? In today's day and age, there's actually such a thing as somebody who's not literate? He says, I want you to come meet him and talk about what it was like to walk into my school with kids all over the place, and to start dealing with this issue.
Well, I felt like you could do it because you had a school and you had the kids, and that it could really happen. So I had a little hope. And then we got talking, and we had a few people in common, and you said, I never had done this with an adult, but, I will do it for you.
Yeah. It's interesting that you had hope. I was actually very nervous. Because I said to myself, this is like real. Like, this is the last chance for this guy to really become literate. can this really do it? I knew that the program was made for adults, but like I said, I told you I had never gone through teaching an adult with dyslexia. And I was actually a little nervous about it because I felt like your life really hung in our hands. And I remember telling you that you were going to have to really work hard, and you were like, oh, I'm used to that. I know how to work hard. I can do that. I was also blown away at your ability to really persevere, to do the work. Talk a little bit about what it was like for you to go to that 12-step meeting the first time, being able to read in front of everybody.
Yeah, well, anytime I went to this meeting and they would read every Monday, and I would read, but I would always, not do well. So, when I got up there and I was pretty fluent, and I was happy with my progress, I was pleased, and I knew it was going to work. I mean, we were not that far along when I got some success.
Right.
So it was really, I knew I was on the right path.
It was a very proud moment for our office, I have to tell you. We were all so excited. We were like, wow, this guy not only can read in front of us, but that's a little laboratory. You never know if it really works. But when somebody can get up and do that conversation and do that in front of other people, then you know that you've really made it. And you've traveled, you've always kept up with it, you've always made sure. So what do you think your message is to somebody who's going through this?
I think there are programs available that work, and I mean, you have to do the work. I mean, nothing works without putting the effort in, but it does. I mean, you don't have to live like that.
Yeah, we're so happy that we can be a part of this, and we're so excited that not only did it change you as a person, it changed us. It made everything, it gave total meaning to what we do on a daily basis. And really hope that any kid or adult or a parent of a child that's going through this, that there's hope out there, and with the right perseverance, we can really make that difference.
Yeah, I really never knew that.
So I've always used you, and any time a parent has come in, because you've been that model for success. At any age.
Yeah, it's really, it's a whole world. It's a great world when you can read and write and spell and.
See, we talk about that when kids walk into the office and we say, there's this amazing life that reading opens up for you, but they don't really believe it. They're kids. They don't necessarily, they know that in theory it sounds really great. What suggestions, if somebody's looking at this, and it could be a college student, just like you were a college student in Hiram, who, for whatever reason, they did like what you said. They were verbal. They got away with it.
Honestly, I told them come see Nikki, but other than that,
that's really nice.
I'm a little older now than when I went to college, and but there are a lot of resources that came out after I went through school that help students.
When did you realize that you had dyslexia?
Well, I think I realized first grade because the school that I went to had a pilot program that they were testing in public school called ITA, and my mom, enrolled me in that program. So I knew that I had a reading problem. And she probably told me I was dyslexic because before I did that, I practiced on a balance. They took me to get tested, and I was on a balance beam. I remember that balance beam because I kept on falling off.
Do you still have balance issues till today?
Yes, I don't walk straight. I mean, I don't have to be drunk. I just don't walk straight. I'm always bumping into my wife.
It's interesting because one of the things that they talk about with dyslexia, and part of the testing does have to do with balance. And part of it is that you have to be connected, that the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain actually have to work together at the same time. We know that the synapses that go back and forth, these electrical currents, help that process, and they also help the process with balance. So that's why nowadays we would have done early intervention and been working on that balance at the same time as working on that reading. So you knew that you had dyslexia, you were diagnosed with dyslexia, but did you really understand it, and did it make any sense to you?
No, I mean, all I understood was, letters are backwards. You see a B as a D, and I never did that really. So I couldn't, I really didn't understand that. And they said that your thought process, maybe that left, right, you couldn't connect sentences. You couldn't write sentences in a understandable manner.
Right.
That was part of it. And that part, I think, I wasn't given a chance really to even see if I could do it.
Right. Well, because the well-known part of dyslexia for many years that was known was the backwards letters and seeing things, seeing numbers backwards. And the truth is there's really, we have now learned that there's so much more to dyslexia than just mixing up your B's and your D's. But that was a time. So your mom took you to all these different programs, and she tried really, really hard. And she's put a lot of money into a lot of these different programs that you went to, but could you sense that she was getting frustrated with you?
Yeah, I sensed something. I sensed that I took it as disappointed in me, and that I couldn't measure up. I had a sister that's brainiac, and so.
And now that you've gone through this literacy program, and your mom is still alive?
Yes.
And so you've been able to talk to her about this process. Yeah. How does she feel now?
Well, I think she's proud. I mean, we just have, we have like a, whatever a normal relationship is. We just have a nice relationship, which, I never had with my mother until recently. And, I mean, it took all of 8 years to get this relationship with my mom. It wasn't like I started on this path and, she was proud of me. And,
right.
I mean, I had to get the skills, because my mom was a, librarian. She had a.
Oh, wow.
She was
extremely literate.
Yeah, she was. It was a big thing.
So that must have been really hard for her. Here she was working as a librarian in a library with a kid who couldn't read a book.
Right.
That must have been very frustrating for her.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So by going through this program and you starting to take out books, let's talk about you going to the library now and taking out books for the first time.
I go to the library. I need to go again. I love to read now. I mean, It's great to read about. I like story. I like police stories and business espionage stories, and so
you've gotten into the whole concept of being able to read a novel, the joy of reading a novel.
Yeah, not just the Wall Street Journal or something.
That's great. And that's what reading does. It's not just for the business world. Right. It's also to relax your mind. It's also to have all those amazing imageries. So now your mom sees you, and she's a librarian, and she's older, and she sees that you've gotten into reading. So she has to feel, I guess, vindicated. Or
yeah. Well, she always told me you got to learn to read. It's in everything, and it is. It's in everything. I mean, she hit that nail on the head. Right.
So what she said was right. Her message was right, but she didn't know the steps in which to guide you to get there.
Yeah,
she tried.
She tried, and I think it's like most parents. They're impatient. They're impatient, and it's not easy to have. It's not easy to have patience. Period. But
right,
and with your child, it might be.
And with somebody going through a program like this and learning literacy, you have to have a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you were growing up and you're struggling with reading, did you feel different than the other kids?
Yeah, sitting up in the front row in the blackboard didn't help. So then you sit in the back and you disrupt the classroom, because
you become the class clown.
You become the class clown because that's all that's all you can contribute to the class,
Right. So you're good you're still good at telling jokes.
Well, yeah.
It's a skill you pick up when you can't read.
Right.
Yes. Exactly.
I guess my jokes are I'm a punster. So.
But it's interesting that you said sitting in the front of the class, because I've heard that intervention over and over and over again in IEPs, as if that's going to be the cure. If you put them right next to the teacher, they're for sure going to learn to read.
Right.
Right, and it didn't work for you.
No, it didn't work.
No.
It could have just been a blank board. The same as a blank board. You know, by the time you don't have any friends, you don't know anybody in first grade.
Right.
And, you know, elementary school, you know, the kids that are good are hanging together, and the kids that are bad are outcast. And
Right.
so
you end up hanging with that group of kids.
yeah,
Which,
or nobody really.
Right.
You don't have anybody to hang with.
Do you think that the struggle that you had for reading may have created lying as a way to deal with that?
I call it dishonesty.
Right.
You know, being dishonest. And yeah, I mean, I'm still, I think there's still more layers to uncover as far as, you know, the pain that I experienced having to live that way, you know,
Right.
all those years.
You know what? I want to take away the word lying. I don't mean that. It's more like withholding.
Withholding, yeah.
That's more the form of
yeah.
it. In other words, it's not that you're making something up. It's that you're just not sharing. You're not expressing
It's
yourself.
omitting something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's lying by omitting.
Yeah.
Exactly. Did you
Yeah,
feel
oh
that?
yeah. I mean, I always had I mean, that was my MO, you know, fly underneath the radar, you know.
Make sure nobody notices.
Right, and they're always noticing, and you know, the beautiful thing that I see today with my eyes open is that people really like me.
Yeah, they do. They love you. They really do. One of the things that they say about adults with dyslexia, if you interview them, they'll say they're not like any other people. And that even when they become literate, they still feel and see the world a little bit different. Do you feel that way? Now that you've gone through the reading, do you still feel that you see the world a little different?
I think so. I probably, yeah. I don't know anybody that sees the world the way I do. But it's a good way. I mean, I'm happy. I was having this discussion today that it's you know, I like what I, you know, what I see in the world, you know.
Then I'll ask you this question. So you would never give up. I always say this, having gone through this and now having gone through the literate thing and having learned and thinking differently, right? Mm. You would never give up your dyslexia.
No, I have no regrets in life, period.
I really want to take this opportunity to thank you for coming and doing this and know how difficult it is. I myself was diagnosed with dyslexia, but not at the same level as you. And I feel very blessed to have met you. There's a lot of your story that I resonate with, that I understand how we think differently, how we see the world differently, but you have had to overcome a challenge as an adult far greater than I had to. And it's such a powerful experience to live through this with an adult. I thank you for giving me this opportunity to really be a part of this, because there's no greater experience than trying to work with somebody and knowing that we can get there. Like, I saw the end of the mountain, but I never knew that you could see it. And really, we climbed a mountain together. Mm. And for that, I am forever grateful. And I hope that your story will be listened to and people will get the hope that I got as I went through it and as we are now, at how unbelievable it is to be able to overcome this hurdle.